Okay, welcome to another Q&A. We have a Q&A thread running at the moment, which is about parts per billion, or ppb, maybe ppbs. But in that thread, there's another thread started, or another conversation started about hot water. So I thought, why not make another Q&A to raise the topic and keep the topic of hot water under hot water. So the first thing is, why would somebody use hot water, right? And is water necessary? Is it faster? And does it have a return on investment? So I've looked at this over the 10 years, and I can see the really expensive systems, where the hot water is there. And I've seen some guys also put in their own hot water for window cleaning. And I think there's no doubt that hot water helps a window cleaner, right? For a multitude of reasons. The biggest one being that it reduces the surface tension on the water. So there's an advantage of it, and that gives you the potential that it could dry faster, not because it's hotter, but because the surface tension is weaker. So if you used hot water in a pencil jet, the result would be quite different to hot water in a radial brush, for example, with the surface tension broken and all the water cascades down the window. So I'll read some of the comments and drop them in here. Martin Day, he was the first guy to make a comment. He said, as a business owner who has both hot water and cold water systems, I can assure you that hot water helps a lot, especially during the colder months of the year. Saves us time when using both your brushes and others. Summer months, not so much help, but still good for very dirty PVC cladding, etc., as it makes a big difference. Okay, so PVC cladding is a different clean. I suppose the frames maybe in parts of America are all PVC as well. I should add that we carry all our water and heat after the pump. We have a static storage and production. Okay, so he's got a system like that. Now, see more, because the interesting thing is, we go down a little bit. I'll come back up to this. A little bit slow. Where did somebody say it? Bob Rawlinson writes, we find hot water is much better in hot weather. Okay, so there's one guy saying it works in cold weather and it doesn't work in hot weather. And another guy says it's much better in hot weather. So we want to try and talk about, well, what's happening? So when water is heated, the molecules are sort of, if you can imagine, these are molecules, they're all moving faster, right? And because they're moving faster, they've got more energy, and because they've got more energy, they can do something different than cold water. And then you say, okay, we're a window cleaner. What are we trying to do? There's only two things we're trying to do. We're trying to take dirt or debris off a surface, and such that we create a dirty water, and then we want to remove the dirty water. So if I was going to clean this bench, I would get a wet cloth and I would wipe the bench. If I didn't do a dry wipe, the water would dirt, the solids would have been moved around, some of them will be in the cloth, and you'll see the white marks, right? That's the equivalent of spots on a window. So with water-fed window cleaning, we demineralize the water. We scrub the window this way, right? And then we rinse the window. If it's a radial brush, it'll be rinsing in the same, you'll be agitating in the upstroke, rinsing in the downstroke. But if you're not using a radial, then you'll agitate the window, scrubby, and then you'll go back and you'll rinse the window, which was whatever format you have as a procedure. Right?
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
What is considered hot water?
Well, I think it's a good question. So that's, in fact, a really, really good question, because that's where I'm kind of going to, is when we start talking about how do we start a conversation about hot water. The question is, what's the temperature of the water out of your tank? What's the temperature of water when it hits the glass? And what's the temperature of water, 4 inches down, 8 inches down, 12 inches down, or 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters down the window? So one, and then what's the ambient temperature outside at that point? So what's cold weather? You know,
Yeah, because it can
one
even though
guy
it's
might
warm,
be
it
in, one
can
guy
be,
might be in the
yeah.
UK, and the other guy might be in the Arizona desert. So one guy goes, it works good for us in hot weather. His hot might be 20 degrees Celsius, 70, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, the other guy, his hot weather like us in Sydney, we can go to 46, 47 degrees Celsius, 110, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's why I felt this is a really good
Because
conversation, right?
I mean, when it lands on the glass, you start to scrub. Then if it's cold outside, the water will get cold really fast because it's so thin also on the glass, right?
And it's also been getting cold on its way through the hose. So if you've got
Yeah.
75 feet of hose or 300 feet of hose,
And then you're
how
up.
much did it cool down?
Yeah.
You know?
And even, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah.
what temperature is it when it hits the glass?
Yeah.
Then at the top of the window, the bottom of the window, of course, there's always some hot water hitting. But if somebody says, okay, hot water is going to clean windows faster, and we'll go, well, dude, how much faster than a single action can you get? If you were doing regular window cleaning, like 4 weekly, how much faster can you get? You should only be going over the window once.
Yeah.
Agitate, rinse, agitate, rinse, agitate, rinse, next window.
Fast enough for the water not to get too cold after it leaves
It's
the
irrelevant.
brush.
It's
Yeah.
irrelevant. You hot water or cold water, you should only go over it once. It's not how long, how much, because then you say, okay, well, because there's no way that hot water makes a difference is in the taking of dirt, just dirt, that's floated around and landed on the glass with an ionic attraction and holds itself there. And it's only been there for 4 to 6 to 12 weeks. There's no difference. It works. We already know it works. We can use cold water and good bristles and good agitations, well, not even going to the scrubs yet, and we can get those off in a single stroke up, and we can rinse on a single stroke down. That's proven. So you can't get any faster than that. So hot water can't make that job faster. So which job could hot water make faster? Well, let's say it's bee poo, right? So hot water could, let's say, soften a wax. That would make sense, right? Because bee poo is basically a waxy substance. But then the question would be, can you get bee poo off by changing the agitation method to a more aggressive agitation in the same time or less than the effect of adding hot water? Because you can't just go squirt and bee wax is all soft. You know, it needs time to heat up, you know? And you can't say I had hot water at the top of the window and that's going to heat up the bee poo at the bottom of the window. Because that water is, as you said, that water is going to cool down so fast, right? You've got ambient temperature, you know, let's say it's winter and it's 10 degrees outside or 45 degrees Fahrenheit, you know. The glass is going to be 45 degrees. It may be a little bit warmer because inside the house, if it's, you know, double paned or single paned, you know, there's some things there. So it doesn't have enough time. So yes, it can soften the bee wax, or yes, it can soften the seagull poo, but it needs time to do that.
It's
So I'm going, if I can make a brush that can do it in that time or less using agitation, I don't need to soften it. I just need to get it off with agitation.
Yeah, with the rocker deep frame both have the stainless steel mesh.
Yeah, you've got the mesh, and you've got, I mean, all, you know, because bee poo in UK, even bee poo in UK is not the same as bee poo in UK. It depends what season, what flowers are the bees going after, what district are they in, and then you've got temperatures. You know, how long has it been on the glass for? How hot does it go to when it's cooking? You know,
So
like our bee poo will cook at 45 degrees Celsius.
So you have to be like
Their
a
bee poo is
biology.
cooking at 22 degrees Celsius is a hot day. You know, 30 is like a disaster.
You need to be kind of like a biologist as well, knowing the type of
Well, that's
animals.
if you would need to do that if you didn't have a pragmatic approach, right? So the pragmatic approach is, can I do it faster with agitation? And I don't need to know about hot water. I need to know that hot water does something, but does it do enough? So originally, when I was researching hot water, you lower the surface tension of the water and it's more likely to cascade, right? But then we developed the bristle blade for the radial brush, and it makes cold water cascade. So that advantage is not there. The only thing, the certain thing which we agreed with Marcel, right? Marcel made a comment, and he said the hot water dries faster, and I would assume that's true, right? So let's say that if hot water dries faster, that is an advantage in a tiny fraction of your jobs. Is the the pollen season, plant pollen. Pollen season, there's lots of dust in the air, right? Or a really dusty, windy day, If you leave beads of water and they take a long time to evaporate, so it's not a hot day, it's a cool day, and they take a long time to evaporate, and they're big beads of water, then the windy, dusty day, the dust can stick to the bead, and then they'll be left on the window, as the bead evaporates.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's a fact.
Yes.
Right? And there are other ways to reduce the surface tension of the water to achieve the same effect without using heat is possible. So the question then is not, does hot water have an advantage? Let's say hot water has an advantage. The business question is, does it have a return on investment? Because it's not cheap, it's expensive, it's potentially dangerous because you've got to heat the water. So you have to have a certified hot water system, Then you've got to go and fill up your fuel source for your hot water system, and you use fuel to have hot water, and then is your advantage really that great? Well, maybe somebody lives in a really dusty, windy area. You know what I mean? And that person can say, it's the best thing I ever did. But the rest of the community is guaranteed no. Like, we never got called back. We had 3 vehicles running. We never got called back for spots. Windy day, no windy day. We have lots of pollen. We have lots of stuff. That contact time of dusty, that the spot that we know does happen to certain people on certain days in certain areas happens. It's true. But that doesn't mean the whole industry has to go to hot water because that guy on that day got a spot. You know what I mean? From a return on investment, from a business mind point of view. So that's why we don't advocate it. We don't think it's bullshit like PPB. That's like, that's myth busted, that one. The real reason why we have the conversation about hot water is that it's an expensive system that returns such a tiny little return on investment that it's not an investment worth making for most people. Now, if you've invested in it, you'll certainly have to challenge whether you have a sunk cost fallacy on it. Like, I've paid for it, so I can, like, I've seen the PPB guys, right? And the window's so much cleaner. You can't believe it. Like, people, the window's so much cleaner. It can't be cleaner. Clean is clean, right? So that, you can see the spot, you can't see the spot, right? If you can't see the spot with parts per million, you'll never see a spot with parts per billion, obviously. But why do you need to go to parts per billion? So, but,
it doesn't really make sense.
The people that spent 10 grand on that system, right? They can see it. I mean, there's a sunk cost fallacy. They cannot not see it, right? So, sometimes my question is for the guys who there's a sector of guys who genuinely have a return, and maybe Martin with the PVC cladding may be sufficient of an advantage because I don't know anything about hot water on PVC. But for the other guys, for the other part of the industry, you'd have to really challenge that thinking.
Well, could it be that they have actually the water canister on the truck and it's not covered, so the water gets heated by the sun, so maybe they get it for free anyway?
No, we're talking 80 degrees Celsius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is not warm water.
Okay.
This is hot water.
Okay, we're talking like really hot.
Yeah, but I'd love somebody to do an experiment where they say, okay, my water out of my heating system is let's say 80 degrees. My water after 300 feet, 100 meters of hose tube is 60 degrees, which is what it is when it hits the glass. And then have a little thermometer and have the brush running on the top of the glass, not holding it there so the glass heats up for 5 minutes and then doing this test. You have a piece of glass, you have your catching your catching bucket, which is ambient temperature, and then you bring your brush to the top of the glass, and you do a tiny little downstroke or something, and you catch it like 10 centimeters or 4 inches below, or catch it at the bottom of the window. Even if you caught it at the bottom of the window with that as a genuine experiment, you could be pretty sure that the graph of the temperature dropping would be very close to linear. So it'll, you divide it, if it was 30 centimeters down, you would divide it by 3, and that would be per 10 centimeters, it loses so many degrees. And then you want to have a look at, if your agitation, most of us are, sort of 1 to 2 seconds a stroke on the average window, like it's really 1 second a stroke. You're really cleaning like this. So a whole stroke cycle is 1 second. So you have a whole stroke cycle, it's 1 second, right? How much time is that hot water on the glass? Even if it is hot. And if you do that twice, what softened? Okay, so definitely seagull poo would soften more with hot water than cold water, but the question is, can you put a scrub on radial rocker that'll take the seagull poo off with 2 scrubs anyway? So that's why I never got into hot water, because I just thought, I can do it better, I can do it cheaper, I can do it faster.
Yes. No, that's why the radial rocker with all the different scrubs can help do that. And also depends on how long the beepo insect have been on the glass. I imagine how hard it sticks.
I don't know. How long does hot water need to be on it to melt it? None of us know. Yeah. But somebody could work it out.
Mm.
Like if somebody was like as crazy as I am, that's the kind of thing I do, but I'd rather somebody else have a go and post it up as a video.
Yep.
All right, so that should get everybody going on the topic of, is hot water worthwhile for window cleaners? It's definitely worthwhile for pressure washers, because they're dealing with completely different debris. But for window cleaning, if you already have it, good, keep using it if you want, but certainly it's worth challenging, and certainly it's not for everybody. There's no we can't clean windows fast anymore, right? See you in the next one.